Hello again, I am Blunty, feeling slightly under the weather. As you may be able to hear in my voice, sorry about that. Man flu, seasonal flu thingy, winds up getting me every year pretty much, usually a couple of times a year. Although I did manage to hold it at bay a little longer than usual this year. I usually get it fairly early on in the seasonal change. Anyway, that's beyond the point of this video. Point of this video is I don't feel like making the video I was intending to make today because that one is just too hard, too difficult. And quite frankly, I don't have the energy or even wherewithal to actually get it done in the level of quality that I wanted to get done in. So instead, I'm doing another one of these sort of old school rambling vloggy type things, a follow-up to the one I posted a couple of days ago actually about my impending PC build, where I rambled on for almost 20 minutes about the PC gaming rig I'm intending to build, or possibly intending to build, and I'm coming down absolutely on the side of building my own rig now. I have made the decision. I am going to build my own rig, and over the past couple of days I've been doing lots of research, watching lots of videos and reviews and tests and you know, stuff to try and figure out the components that I'm going to go with in the end. And my list has congealed into two lists actually. One of which is the, you know, try to save a little bit of money wherever I can list, and the other one is fuck it, let's go for power kind of list. And it turns out, although the power one does have some compromises on price as well, because I'm trying to stick to a budget of $1,500 under that, although the power one does go over it. But we'll talk about that more in a second. But anyway, the difference between those two lists winds up being only $187 anyway, which makes it kind of easy to kind of justify going over the budget just a little bit for that little more powerful version. I wanted to thank you guys, by the way, those of you who stuck around for the entire 20 minutes of the last vid, actually threw in your 2 cents, threw your hat into the ring, or whatever the metaphor is for trying to be helpful. You were helpful. Got a lot of good advice, particularly on coolers and bits and pieces, which I was unsure of because, you know, a lot of those brands have changed. I'm not sure who to trust anymore. A lot of people recommended the Noctua fans. Noctua, I think is the pronunciation, fans. And indeed, I did my own research on those after many people suggested to them, and many of the videos and reviews I was watching recommended them as well. And they do seem to be really good. They've got really good reliability, really good reputation, really good warranties, and they are very, very quiet, which is one of my main aims for the system, to make it as quiet as possible, of course, because it will be sitting, you know, in my little living room here, hooked up to the TV, or on my little desk over there. I mean, I live in a very small apartment, so it needs to be quiet, and it needs to be quiet for when I'm streaming and recording, doing all that sort of stuff, and possibly it might end up living sort of on the shelf here, so I can have it in the background of my videos. So I want it to look good as well, which is another consideration, because, you know, I do like things that look good, although that looks horrible at the moment. I did a big cleanup of my apartment over the last couple of days while I was sick and just milling around the house, not able to do anything. So there's like garbage bags full of crap over there I need to get down it to get rid of. But you don't need to know that. That's why my shelves are looking particularly bare at the moment, because all the crap that was on their books and bits and pieces, I just cleared it all off. It's on the corner over there at the moment, but you know, I'm only halfway. I'm at the process of cleaning my apartment up where it looks like a bomb has exploded. You know. Anyway, rambling again. I don't care. I don't care if I'm ramble. Some of you guys said you enjoyed the ramble, because some of you guys said, well, you shouldn't have cut out the bits from the other video where you went off on a tangent and rambled. I wanted to see that anyway, because I don't care if you stay on point, as long as you just keep talking and talking and talking. What was I saying? Alright, I was thanking you guys for actually being helpful. Now, the Noctua fans, yes, brilliant in every way, except they're hideous. They are brown, and I don't mean brownish, I mean brown and beige. Although some people have kindly called it tan. It's pretty beige. It's closer to beige than tan in my books. And they're hideous. They are entirely ugly. There is no redeeming aesthetic value to them at all. So whether or not I wind up using them in my windowed rig, and I'm going to have a window in my rig, probably LEDs and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to go too flashy, because I don't like incredibly blingy, over detailed. So I want it sort of, you know, cool looking, and lit up, beautiful, but elegant and slimlined and you know, more Apple than Microsoft when it comes to design, I guess is what I'm coming up to. You know, more iPod than Zune. Hence my no brown fans, please. Maybe I'll maybe go for them anyway. I don't know, because they are supposedly really good. But other discussions that happened in the comment section there where, well, you really should go for the K version processor, because I said in my original video, well, I don't need to spend the extra money on the K version because I'm probably not going to overclock, and anyway, you know, raw CPU power isn't the main bottleneck in gaming anyway. It's all about the graphics card and speed of memory and all that kind of stuff is more important for gaming, and this is going to be pretty much a gaming rig, because all my day-to-day computing stuff and all my work stuff, editing videos and all that sort of stuff, that happens on my MacBook Pro. So I don't need a multi-purpose, general-purpose PC. It is basically just for gaming and streaming and testing the occasional bit of PC accessory gear that requires Windows for whatever reason, or works better on Windows, whatever it is. And possibly, you know, reviewing video graphics cards down the road as well, because that would be something fun to do, I think. And you guys said you wouldn't mind seeing that kind of stuff, so maybe it's something I should look into. But, point being, I don't need the extra CPU power, so I could have saved a bit of money going for the regular i5 version. I forget what bloody model number I said now. It's on screen. But I think I will spend the extra money and go for the K version as well, the 46... Oh, God, what is it now? 4690K. So many model numbers swimming around in my head right now over days, like 3 or 4 days worth of just absorbing nothing but different part numbers and model numbers and stuff. So I'm going to refer to my list to make sure I get things right. But yeah, you know, it is only a little bit extra, and the motherboard I'm going with supports overclocking, so I might as well go for the overclockable CPU anyway. So if I do need a bit of extra grunt, because I did say, you know, I'm going to be streaming at the same time, so that is a bit CPU intensive, you know, encoding live H.264 video to square up to Twitch. That will suck up some extra CPU cycles on its own, so might as well have something that I can overclock, which will change the way I cool it a bit better, cool it a bit differently. My original thought was to go with the Noctua NHL9i, which is a beautifully slimline, almost completely super silent, very quiet fan. But if I'm going for the beefier CPU, and I'm going to think about overclocking it, even if it's just a moderate overclock, you know, a safe overclocker, a wussy overclock, I'm probably really going to have to get a little more serious about the cooler. So the cooler instead I'm looking at is again the Noctua, but in this version the fans are on the side of the heatsink, so the way I'm going to have my case set up, you're looking down on top, so you'll only see the edge of the brown, tanny, beige fans anyway, so maybe I'll just put a sticker over them or something, instead of the low profile one, which you would see the entirety of, which I didn't know what I was going to do about. But anyway, so, you know, more serious cooling. And yes, absolutely, I really should go for the K version. There is kind of a no-brainer there, really. I did look at an option of going with a much cheaper motherboard, which was instead of the I can't see my prices here, but anyway, cheaper motherboard, 139 instead of 230 something, I think. Again, MSI, the Z97M-G3 motherboard, which is not a gaming specific motherboard, had a blue scheme instead of the red, which is, you know, fine. I can color match the RAM and everything if I wanted to get really prissy about the presentation. That wasn't a problem. And that is very, very feature similar to the Z90M gaming rig motherboard that I was looking at from MSI as well. They're basically stablemates, these two motherboards, and the feature-wise they were very, very, very similar. And it was almost like, well, why would I pay extra for this one? Because the features that are different on this one, I'm probably not going to use anyway. Like, you know, I had more SATA ports and a few more different bits and pieces that I probably wasn't going to make use of anyway, because I'm not going to fill the thing full of hard drives and other things. But the main difference being the gaming one, of course, a little bit better for overclocking, but it's also red, which is cool. But the main difference is the gaming one had support for SLI and Crossfire. So if I do, down the road, wind up looking at video cards, either for my personal use or for review purposes, that can run in tandem, then that was the board I was going to need. Because while the other board, the cheaper board, does support Crossfire, does not support SLI. So I could use AMD cards teamed up together, but not Nvidia cards. So I might as well go for the one that gives me the most flexibility. So I can go single, double, Crossfire, or SLI, whatever. So that was the thought process for the motherboard and the CPU. And again, you guys were really helpful in that, sort of making me think about things from a different angle that I hadn't looked at before. My thought process was this way, and I built to this way. And then you other guys said, well, you should look at this as well. I went, well, I don't need to. Oh, wait a second. Maybe I do need to think about that. But yeah, you guys were helpful. You guys were helpful for that, so thank you. Excuse me again. My voice is starting to give out again. I was all right for a while there, but now it's starting to go. What's next on the list of stuff I was talking about here? SSDs. That's another thing you guys were talking about, SSDs. And yes, you're absolutely right. I really should invest in even a basic SSD. And I think the one I've got on my list at the moment is just a dirt basic Sandisk SSD, because I do like Sandisk. I use their memory cards in my cameras all of the time, and none of them have ever let me down. I've been using them for years and years and years now. I've never had a Sandisk card fail on me, so a lot of faith in the Sandisk thing. And some people did recommend Kingston memory as well, or whatever the gaming branded Kingston memory is HyperX or something, whatever it is. And while yes, it comes highly recommended, I have had some Kingston SD cards fail on me, and that started tarnishing the name for me. I'd much prefer to stick with Sandisk. But yeah, SSD, very basic, sort of 128 gigabyte Sandisk SSD. Doesn't need to be the fastest, doesn't need to be the biggest, just needs to be faster than a spinny drive, basically, just for the operating system and some speed vital kind of applications and things. That's fine. And I'll put the 500 gig 512 2.5 inch drive that I've got sitting around spare. I'll put that in as the main storage drive. I think maybe even the 2.5 inch 500 gig 7200 RPM drive that was in my old gaming laptop which exploded, I think that may still be okay. I think it was just the drive controller in the laptop that farted out on me on that, so the drive may be still perfectly okay. So I may end up having two 500 gig drives there, different speeds, so probably won't be very useful trying to use them in a RAID array, but I'll have extra space in there for whatever. Maybe I'll turn it into a gaming rig / home media server thingy, because I do have some hard drives that do serve themselves as a media server, NAS hard drives and things, but maybe I'll build it into a rig as well. Who knows? Let's actually look at my notes here. Liquid cooler. Another thing you guys had a lot of say about. I was thinking, in my original video I mentioned, there goes the voice again, that I was looking at liquid cooling because it would be quieter, which was the case back in the day, the last time I built an actual computer from parts, which was about 12 years ago, for those of you who didn't see the original video or don't remember that bit of the original video. And it was absolutely true back then, because the silent revolution of really, really quiet CPU fans hadn't happened back then, really. We're all cobbling things together from auto parts and things. There was no such thing as dedicated PC lighting back in the day. It was only just starting to become a thing the last time I built a rig. So what we were doing back then, case modders and stuff, we were getting parts from auto stores, underbody lighting and those little 12-inch long neon lights that car modders used to use under their dashboards and shit, or in their footwells and all that sort of stuff. We were using that stuff, rewiring it, repurposing it, and wiring it into the 12-volt line of a Molex connector and all that sort of stuff. They, this whole custom lighting, blinky LED revolution that's happened over the past decade or so. Back when I was building rigs last time, we had to work much harder to get the job done. These days, buy it off the shelf, put it in, easy. So, you kids today, you've got it easy. Back in my day, uphill both ways. But yeah, apparently, the air-cooled fans are so good these days, they are actually significantly quieter than pretty much all off-the-shelf, all-in-one water cooling solutions. Although there have been a couple of really nice quiet ones suggested to me, which I may look into, may not. But for now, I think I'm quite satisfied with air cooling, because I know I can keep that silent for the research I've been doing. Lots of quiet stuff out there. What else have I got in my notes here? I've talked about the motherboard. RAM is RAM is another catchphrase that was thrown at me a couple of times in the comments of the last video. RAM is not RAM. I mean, I hear this repeated from in forums and on videos and stuff that I've been watching over the past couple of days. RAM is RAM. Just buy the cheapest stuff that matches your specs. Back in the day, I wasted 2 entire days of my life trying to diagnose a intermittent crashing problem I had with a system. And it would just crash out of the blue. I couldn't figure out why it was doing it. There was no rhyme or reason to it. I pulled out one stick and tested with just one stick, swapped them out, tested the other stick, and it would work for a while, and then put them back in and they would crash, and then I did the whole thing again. Oh, maybe I'll just try a longer test with one stick, and okay, that's fine. I'll try a not longer test with the other stick, and that's fine. And it was so intermittent and crappy. It took me 2 days to nail it down to what was the issue with, and it was the RAM in the end that I nailed it down to. I just in frustration, I went out and bought 2 new sticks of RAM, stuck them in, instantly solved the problem. But the problem was so intermittent and janky and awful, and it was impossible to nail down to the RAM just by testing and experimenting and the regular testing procedures. So no, RAM is not RAM. I'm more than happy to spend the extra money on good quality RAM that has a brilliant reputation, that comes highly recommended, that's been, you know, been sold for years and all that sort of stuff. I'm not gonna buy the dirt basic RAM because I don't trust it. Another question we got in the last video: why Intel over AMD, referring to my CPU choice? Well, that one's pretty simple. I have no particular aggression towards, what is it, red team and green team, or is that the graphics card things? I don't know what it is. AMD's red team, and then I think Nvidia's the green team and Intel's blue team or something. This shorthand that nerds use in forums to talk about this sort of brand loyalty bullshit, which, if you've watched me long enough, you know isn't a thing anyway. I'm not brand loyal unless I have a really good reason to be, and even then I'm willing to switch at the drop of a hat if something better comes along from the other guys. That's neither here nor there though. Why Intel though? Had nothing to do with the brand. It has to do with the fact that Intel chips, the i5 chips in particular, because this is going to be a gaming rig, i5 is the better choice for that, simply because while the AMD chips have more cores, which is cool, and may in fact benefit me when it's coming to playing a game and encoding a Twitch stream at the same time, ish, a little bit of benefit. Most games prefer, when we're talking about just gaming performance as far as the CPU goes, prefer fewer stronger cores than lots of weaker cores. It's just the way the coding works, or at least at the moment. So, you know, while it's a narrow gap between the two, really, in real world terms, Intel is the better way to go as far as I'm concerned right now. That brings us to graphics cards. If we're talking about brand loyalty, again, I'm going to wait to see what AMD brings out next week. There's been a few leaks over the past couple of days referring to what models, the capabilities, how the product span will look. Even pricing has been leaked. Don't know how accurate any of that is. I am going to an AMD event next week, which will be, I think, about half a week after the official announcement. So we'll see the announcement in a few days or a week from now, whatever it is, and then a few days after that I'm going to a local AMD press event thingy, and I'll get proper hands on. I'll be able to ask all my questions there. But the thing that's making me lean towards Nvidia at the moment, and the Nvidia card I have narrowed down to, is the ASUS GeForce GTX 970 Strix DirectCU 2 4GB. And I'm chosen that one because, well, I thought if I'm building this rig, I might as well get something with a real kick to it. And the 970 seems to be the best value for money as far as performance versus DirectX 12 compatibility and silence. This particular model of the 970 is supposed to be one of the quietest, and in fact it will stop its fans altogether when it's not actually grunting hard, throwing hardcore graphics around. So if I'm playing something with low-end graphics, or indeed I'm on the desktop doing something, the fans just don't move. They stop, they stall. Complete silence. Brilliant. And when it is ramping up to actually throw a lot of polygons around or whatever, apparently they're still one of the quietest options around. So noise being a big issue there, the 970 I chose is the ASUS GeForce 970 Strix. But yeah, that's up for debate right now, because AMD might come out with something that's better value, stronger, and maybe this generation of stuff will have quieter coolers. Fingers crossed on that one. What else I've got on my list here? Yeah, why not hold off till Skylake, the next generation of Intel architecture in the CPU chips? And basically my answer to that is I don't need to wait. I mean, yes, they'll be about the same price. They'll probably be a little bit better performers, but again, I don't need absolute top-end, best of the best of the best CPU performance. Gaming doesn't need that. GPU is more important in this math equation. So why not just go with what's out there right now? It is tested, it's stable, it's second generation Haswell stuff, so it's really, really stable, it runs cool, all that kind of good stuff, versus just waiting until an as yet undisclosed date when these new Intel chips will come out, and then motherboard support. It's supposed to be some kind soon. There's motherboards sort of hitting the shows right now. Whether or not the value proposition is slightly worse or slightly better, or whatever it is, I'd rather go with proven stuff. Like I said, second generation stuff. We know the stuff works rock solid. We know, the overclockability of it and all that sort of stuff. It's a known quantity. And for the extra, let's be generous and say 10% performance increase, that probably won't even matter in games, let alone just doing a little bit of 720p squirting out to Twitch. That's not that CPU intensive. It'll be fine. There's no need for me to wait, basically. Wait and see and pay for the big bucks for the new motherboards and all that sort of stuff. Right now is all I need to be at. But yeah, what haven't I touched on yet? Oh, the case. I have made some decisions about the case as well. I've got two leading runners at the moment. On the budget side of things, there's the Thermaltake Core V21, which I think I mentioned in the original video as well. Really nice case, really good value, quite cheap. Comes with a great big 200mm fan in the front, which apparently is quite quiet as well, although I may replace that if it's just a bit on the noisier side. But apparently, it's a big fan, spins relatively slowly, it shouldn't make much noise at all. And the thing is basically just brilliantly adaptable. It can move the window wherever I need it. All the panels are interchangeable. Plenty of vents all around the thing to help keep things really cool, even with sort of the low speed airflow that my rig's probably going to have with the low speed, quiet, silent fans and all that sort of stuff. Excuse me again. But there is the Corsair Carbide Air 240, which I quite like. Not quite as open as far as cooling goes. The vents, it's got fewer vents. Less venting, I guess, is probably the better term for it. It does have that pretty window. Again, it's about the same size. But on the plus side, less open venting all over the place means it'll help keep the noise, whatever noise is generated by the fans and stuff, it'll help keep that inside. And it has much better cable management. And if I'm going to have a window on this thing, cable management is going to be an issue as well. It's got a dual chamber design, so the power supply is behind a partition wall basically. So it's going to be, any rig I build in that is going to look much more attractive. I don't know if I like the external design as much as the Thermaltake Core V21, but it's starting to grow on me. The more research I'm doing on it, it's starting to grow on me, and it's like an award winner or something. I think that's pretty much all the basic equipment I'm talking about. Oh, the PSU, while we're on that thing, I'm probably going to go for the Be Quiet Straight Power 10 600 watt CM power supply, because again, in my research, that has turned out to be one of the quietest options out there. It is apparently near silent, and it is 600 watts, which is about 220 watts above what this system should need as it sits, with the motherboard, the CPU and the GPU I've chosen out that. But I do want plenty of overhead on that, just in case I do in the future start looking at teaming up two cards together and all that stuff. I want overhead. It's always a good idea to have overhead in your power supply, not only because of future upgrading concerns, but also because power supplies are more efficient when they're sitting in their 70 to 80% power delivery range. And if they have to ramp up to, the less it has to ramp up to 100% delivery, the quieter it's going to be, because the cooling systems in these things are designed to keep it cool when it's running at 100% or close to 100%, 90% or something. If I keep it at, 50%, 60%, 70% even, that should keep it much more quieter anyway. So that's pretty much the thought process going into the build at the moment. Let me run you through the direct part list for the shopping cart I've got built up here at the moment. ASUS GeForce GTX 970 Strix 4GB graphics card. The Be Quiet Straight Power 10 600 watt PSU. I've also got on my shopping list here a Thermaltake Ring 14 high static pressure 140mm green LED fan, because I'm thinking red and green. That's the kind of colour scheme I'm going to go for there, and that fan is apparently pretty quiet as well, and I'm going to need an exhaust fan to replace whatever standard exhaust fan comes in the standard unit. The Sandisk 128GB SSD, the Corsair Carbide Air 240 case we just talked about, MSI Z97M gaming motherboard, which has everything I need it to do, plus a bit more, and it looks really cool, so it's going to look nice through the window. If you can even see it behind the graphics card, depending on which way I think I mount things around. It might be completely obscured by the cooling fans of the graphics card if I lay it on its back or something. Intel Core i5 4690K for the overclocking. The Noctua NH-U9B SE2 CPU cooler. Hideous, but apparently very quiet and very good. And g.Skill Ripjaws XF3 1600 RAM, because apparently the motherboard, that's the speed the motherboard wants. I can overclock from there if I need to on the RAM timings, but apparently if I go for faster than that, it lowers the speed to 1333 or something. So I might as well go for the 1600 and hit the max recommended on that motherboard. But yeah, that's it. That that particular build. God damn it, where's my notepad? It's gone. There we go. That particular more power version of the build is about 1672 Australian dollars, whereas the cheaper version, where I skimp out on the motherboard and the CPU and the cheaper cooler, I think that's about only the main differences between the rig, is about $187 cheaper at $1,458-ish dollars. Don't need keyboard and mouse. I've already got a couple of gaming keyboards and mouse that I really like. I am going to look at a monitor at some point, but that's not essential. I can use the TV over there to get me off the ground immediately. Or worst case scenario, I think I've got a VGA monitor sitting around here somewhere I could probably plug in just to the basic output of the motherboard, just to get things booted up and running. I think that's pretty much everything. So that's me on another waffle, responding to you guys, responding to me, responding to you, and the way the current rig is falling together. And yes, when I do get to build this, which it's probably going to be at least a month before I'm even close to having the money together to buy this thing. Plus I have to wait for AMD and see what the timeline is on that sort of stuff and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, when I do get around to actually building this thing, which I'm going to try and do as soon as possible, but you know, I will be doing a build log or a series of videos or an individual video, sort of a little mini review on each different component, or I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I am going to document the building of this rig. I'm starting to come up with names for it, cool code names for a rig, because every hand-built gaming rig needs a cool code name you can call it, and I've got a few ideas, which I'm not going to tell you because I don't want anyone to steal them before I get to use them. But thank you guys for helping me out with that sort of stuff, and please send chicken soup. Yes, I know Monster Import energy drink's probably not the best thing to drink while you're feeling crook, but screw you guys. It's my health. I'll do what I want. But yeah, thank you guys. Another rambling video. Although I think it's a long one. It's another long one. It's all right. If you watch, you watch. If you don't watch, you don't watch. What should we get you to do this time if you've watched the whole thing? Because we had a few people who actually seemed to have watched the whole video last time. I told you to put your hands up. This time, I don't know. Call out your favorite team color if you're a gamer. Team red, team blue, team green, whatever it is. I don't know. Do that. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time. And please wish me a speedy recovery. It's cold in here. I'm sweating. I think I'm getting worse. I shouldn't have done this video. All this energy and focus and concentration has really wiped me out. I'm going to go sleep now. No, I'm going to put this video together. Then I'm going to go sleep. But I am lethargic. Well, then have a nap. Then fire the missiles. Name that meme.